I had fever for 2 weeks. I gained weight. And the worst thing is, I felt like I better die than do another follow-up. I still pushed through because
You have to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, I'm not good enough.
entrepreneurial depression hits a little different because you can't take days off. You know you should care, but you just don't. And then there's gurus everywhere yelling at you, do more. It was tough, but as a resilient person as I wanted to be, I felt deeply ashamed for not being okay. So I hid it, I denied it, I didn't address the depression. But the good news is that I'm finally back. I love my life so much that I go to sleep in the hallway during the bombardments. Even though before that I didn't value my life enough, so I just rolled over in my bed and didn't hide from it. So I want to share this story so that if you find yourself in a dark spot too, as an ambitious person, you could spot that easily and you could try some of the tools that I'm sharing with you because they literally changed my life. And I believe they can change yours. The truth is, it didn't start 5 months ago. I think the underlying problem that led to my depression started years ago. So here's a little background. I was a video editor before, I was a freelancer. Then I read a book, The Millionaire Fastlane, and it motivated me to start my own business. But honestly, it motivated me in a very wrong way. I literally cried 2 days because I didn't want to do it. And it's not the best spot to start your business from. Yeah, I didn't want to do it at all, but I did it anyways. And honestly, now I don't regret it. It led to a lot of awesome things in my life. So when I started a business, I finally found purpose. I finally felt like I have a goal to long for. That happened around 2 to 3 years ago. Then I started growing my business, started working on it. It finally became something tangible and like stable. Then me and my husband divorced. And then I decided to move to an entirely different country to start over. So you can imagine, there was a lot of like business stuff, then there was a divorce, and then there was moving to the other country that didn't end up working out, by the way. And all of that depleted my resources almost to zero. I couldn't really realize it at that time, but there were signs. Listen closely, because if you notice those signs, it may be worth to address them. I signed off from my dance classes, even though I like dancing a lot. I signed off from my acrobatics classes, even though I had a lot of friends there. I also liked it because I just didn't have enough resources, energy to deal with it anymore. And I decided to not go anywhere. I decided to not go even to the gym or to the park. I was like, I'm gonna stay at home and grow my business because I have to. Otherwise, I'm gonna be a loser if I don't make millions or if I don't make at least as much as this other guy who I'm comparing myself with. So it ended up being a lot of depleted resources, plus a lot of ego that was like, I have to go forward, I have to move on, I have to grow that business, I have to become rich. And all of that ended up with 5 months of severe depression. I hated my life and I hated my business. Let me share exactly what was happening during those 5 months so that if you notice these patterns in you or in your friends, you could, at least understand what's going on and maybe help them somehow. Honestly, I gotta confess, I did not believe in depression. Please don't throw potatoes at me, please, okay? Yes, it was not like I didn't believe in it. It was like I felt very unrelated to it. And I think a lot of business people, ambitious people, they also don't understand this concept of like, what do you mean you're depressed? If you don't believe you're depressed, you can't be depressed. You're not a candle. You can't burn out, right? That was exactly who I was and what I believed in. I was like, if you don't believe it's happening, it's not happening. Just push through. Just do more. That's it. But there was a moment when I understood that I was very mentally unwell. That was the moment when my intelligence completely realizes that my mental self is not okay. And in one of those hard days when I was understanding very well that I'm very unwell, I remembered that clip from Desperate Housewives where Brie Van de Kamp came to the psychiatric clinic and with a smile on her face, with the confidence that we know she has, and she was like, I think I'm on the edge of a mental breakdown. I felt exactly like that I'm very conscious of not being okay, basically. But when I was searching for that clip, I was like, I wanted to see it, and I started searching for it. And instead of finding this clip, I found another clip. That clip was when Brie wanted to kill herself, when she was about to shoot her head. And I saw that clip and I started crying because I very well understood what she was feeling. Okay. I don't want to start crying right now. I'm okay. But I just remembered that I could relate very much to what Brie was feeling in the moment when she was about to kill herself. Yeah, and that was about time when I started to finally feel empathy and understanding to people with, anxiety, depression, different other mental illnesses, because I started to experience it myself. I'm not like that girl that was in the past who's like, everybody's suffering, so you just suffer too. That's normal. No. Now I understand how painful it can be. I also need to preface that my depression was self-diagnosed, and some people might not like it, but again, as that ambitious, high value person that I wanted to be, I couldn't admit that I was that weak, that I needed to see a specialist. I was deeply ashamed of needing help. But these are the things that happened to me that now, as I am okay, give me the idea of that, yes, this is a depression. So I'll start with physical signs. I started to have acne. I started to get severe bloatings, like the bloatings to the point when it was hard to breathe. But despite that, I couldn't stop eating. My appetite was uncontrollable. I was still eating so much, being super bloated, but I couldn't stop. As a result of this, or maybe not this, I don't know, I still felt like I restricted my eating anyways, because what do you mean I can get weight? I've got to be perfect, right? So it was a very sudden and quick weight gain. I also had fever, like mild fever, 37 Celsius for 2 weeks straight. And I had a lot of like water retention in my body. I'm not really sure if that was like gain weight only or it was a lot of water that retained in my body too. But there was one nice thing at that point, the food. Food was so delicious. I don't know if like anybody can relate, but it was the only joy that I have in life. I was literally counting minutes, hours to the moment when I have lunch because it was so delicious for some reason. I don't know if you're a psychologist, psychiatrist watching this, explain that. Why was food so delicious when I was depressed? Now it's good, but it's not nearly as tasty. One more thing is that I started to create... I need a moment. Let's continue. At the time, I was also creating a lot of inauthentic content and people could notice. I started to receive some comments that were telling about it. That's another topic probably for another video, like how depression makes you inauthentic and not fun to be around. But you know what? I still showed up surprisingly well. Of course, how can I lower the bar? Like that's just off the table because I want to be that high achiever, that ambitious person who actually is worth something. I cannot lower the bar. And I'm kind of proud of, I don't know if I'm proud of, I was so unwell, so it's hard to say that I was proud, but I showed up pretty well as for the state that I was in, and I provided still very good service. It was just very different. Instead of just focusing on something very well, I wanted to get done and get over things that I do. Not in the way that I wanted to just be productive, get all the things done, right? But in the situation like when I was in the acrobatics class and we were doing the rolls, and my trainer asked me, "Why are you doing the rolls so fast?" I was like, I just want to get over this. So in that kind of sense, you're not focused, you just want this over. I waited for the end of the day so hard. In addition to those physical patterns that I just described you, there was also apathy, obviously, as a lot of depressions have, and no resources. Like I didn't have energy. Let me prove. This is the bag that I was taking to my Dubai trip in January. And it's still half unpacked. I found it like a month ago. It still has some travel stuff from 5 months ago. I did not unpack it. I did not have the energy to do that. And yeah, when I found it, I was like, makes sense, yeah. And the most weird thing is like how little of tasks just can't be done because you don't have the energy. Like, when I get the receipt from the supermarket, now I can fold it like very straight, very neatly. But back then, I just didn't have the energy to neatly fold it. I was folding it in a very unneat and wonky and not caring way. Like I didn't have energy to fold the paper. Also, it was hard to open tabs on the laptop. All the laptop stuff, like doing the actual work, which I was doing like 9 hours a day, was so hard, like clicking buttons. There was so many things. It felt very overwhelming and tiring to even just look at it. It was hard to put a pan with potatoes into my fridge at the end of the day. So I ended up having spoiled potatoes, and I did eat a little spoiled food too because I didn't have resources to cook another meal. I hid furniture. There was a chair there. I hid it. There was an air cleaner. I also hid it. I just didn't have resources to take care of that. So I'm like, let me hide it all. But at that point, I didn't see that this was like a pattern that I didn't have resources. I was like, I want to focus on my business. That's why I'm hiding stuff. I'm just focusing on one thing. I also gave away a lot of my plants, and I love plants very much, but I, again, didn't have energy. The house got a bit dirty, and I didn't understand it until I was well. Like when I looked at it with a healthy eye, with a healthy mental state, I was like, yeah, it looks like it could be better. But now it doesn't drain me just looking at some dirt. It's like, okay, it's dirty, I gotta clean. Comparing to when I was depressed, I was like, oh my god, it's so dirty, let me just not look at it. Although I feel like I cleaned a lot, I cleaned pretty regularly. Now, with all of that, what I felt internally was an immense obligation and pressure to persevere, to push through. One of the reasons is that I'm a fan of Alex Hormozi, of the Hormozis family. And of course, his mindset, his teaching is all about it's hard, everybody's suffering, so you just, suffer in your own way and just do more, that kind of message. And on one hand, it probably made me do my job still well. I still showed up in content. But on the other hand, I think it would help me more if I just took a day off, a week off, a month off. Also because of the feeling of obligation, I still set goals. I still made plans for the future, even though I had absolutely no desire to reach them. I gained weight, and of course, how could I gain weight? It's such a shame to actually gain weight. Do you not have self-control, Vika? What a lazy asshole. So yeah, this was like an internal self-talk through the entire time. So I dieted. I fasted even. And now I feel like I would fast okay, because I barely get hungry throughout the day, really. Whereas back then I felt hungry like every minute. The appetite stuff in my brain was so off. And I still fasted. I still, to that struggle that I already had, I added more and more struggle. Because, well, fuck happiness. Suffer. This depleted my resources a lot. And to that depletion, I added one more rule in my life, one more new schedule, one more productivity tip, one more goal set, one more diet to adopt. I tortured myself, really, just because I adopted this mindset of being an entrepreneur, being an ambitious person, and all of that. I did home trainings through the tears. I didn't allow myself to leave the chair because the time I had lunch was 1 p.m. and if it was not p.m. yet, I had to sit there hungry for hours. If you notice any of that, I don't know how to prove you that it was not okay. I know my past self would hear that and be like, okay, that's just because you don't have goals that I have. I am better than you, so I'm gonna persevere. I don't know if anybody who has these dark spots believe me, but please open that part of your brain and invite the idea that this might not be okay, because it's not. One more big thing that describes depression very well. Pay attention, because if you notice something like that, please address it as soon as possible. So one thing was boredom and annoyance and immense inability to focus. When I was listening to some focus and productivity advice, one of the things that Alex Hormozi said in particular was like, remove all the distractions. So focus is basically the removal of all the distractions. Sit down and look at the white wall, and inevitably you will start wanting to work. This does not work with the depressed people, let me tell you, because I could look at the white wall. I have white walls, by the way. I could look at them for hours, not working. Really, because I was so much in my brain, I could ruminate and not wanting to work and just sit there doing nothing. So if this advice doesn't work for you too, try some other advice. That's okay. It's not working for everybody. 15-minute task that I did could drag to 2 hours. There was absolutely nothing that I wanted to do, except maybe some content scrolling, which of course, I didn't allow myself to, because I'm an entrepreneur. I need to remove distractions. How can I possibly scroll? And if I did scroll eventually, I felt so guilty and ashamed of myself. But maybe I could scroll a little bit, just to escape the negative self-talk that I had. And I felt a lot of annoyance and judgment towards other people too. I rolled my eyes on the most wholesome, wonderful content out there, like this.
I'm watching this podcast about a couple who started a business together, and they were like, for us, it's never been like a job. We always had fun. And I'm like, like seriously, how do people make it fun? I don't know. This is just pure suffering.
With all of that thing that was going on, I still felt a lot of shame. Shame for not helping a stranger, and it's like, I don't have resources to help a stranger. Then I feel shame for not helping a stranger, and that depletes my resources even more. So it's like a never ending cycle. I felt guilty for thinking on walks. I would go for a walk, and I would, think about some stuff during the walk, and I felt guilty for it because why aren't you on the walk enjoying the walk? Why do you keep thinking, Vika? Why can you not just, look around the trees? Why do you have to always ruin it? That's the self-talk I had. I felt shame for wearing one pair of earrings all the time. I felt like, oh my god, are you so lazy? You cannot even find another pair of earrings? I felt shame for having something off in my outfit, for having less than 9 hours of work in my toggle track. I felt shame for the font not fitting super well and perfectly in my thumbnail. I felt shamed when people helped me. I remember one time when I had problems with banks, my former coach wanted to help me, and I was like, you don't have to. I literally felt so ashamed when people wanted to help me. And then there was another friend pretty recently, like a month ago maybe, who said that he watched my content. And I was like, please don't watch it. I feel so ashamed of it. Like a lot of my content, I made it unlisted because I felt like it was so bad that I half-assed everything, that I didn't try hard enough, that I'm such a loser, that I create such bad content. Even though at the same time, I made an Instagram reel series 28 hard before 28. Like, I cannot even imagine, like, going through all that, but still deciding to do pretty high effort and good quality series on reels every day. Wow. And I still felt shame for spending only 1 to 2 hours on editing it. I felt like I still half-assed it somehow. And eventually, I felt an immense feeling of shame for just being unwell and understanding it. So it was all shame, 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 shame. At this point, there's no real difference between shame and guilt. It's all just felt all bad. And the fun part, which is like very sad part actually, that I felt like everything was normal. Like, I feel so sorry for her for the past me. Like, I was literally feeling that it was okay, everybody's suffering, so you just have to suffer too. And it's just so not okay. Sorry, I don't want to cry on camera. Also, why I don't want to cry on camera, like nobody cares. Okay, we gotta keep going. I just feel a lot of empathy and compassion about my past self in that condition. I cannot imagine how in past I was like thinking that depressed people just gotta get up and do stuff. I apologize to anybody who ever was depressed because now I know how bad that was. And I just want to hug her. And I don't know what I would tell her. I know she would not believe anything I'd say. But I just want to hug her very much because I'm sorry she was going through this. Okay, good. So the main takeaway, this is not normal. If you notice any of that in yourself or in somebody you love, I don't know what to do exactly, but maybe some of the tips that I'm going to mention in the section of like what I did and what helped could help you. Here's what got me out of the depression that I had. I remember in December, I was meeting my friends and we were talking about life and stuff and depression too. And I said something I believed in at the time. I said, I suffer about something every day. So I think it's normal to suffer. Everybody suffers in some way, right? And my friend, who's a psychotherapist, he said, no, actually not. A lot of people are happy. Everybody has a chance to be happy and fulfilled in their lives. I didn't believe it at that time because I was already, on the verge of something like that. I mean, depression. And I didn't believe her, but now I am so well, I just understand it. I understand what it's like to be happy and fulfilled every day. It's better to treat this underlying depression problem than to push through and persevere. You'll get so resourceful when you just treat the depression first and then get to that ambitious state as well. Because if you are ambitious, you will be ambitious with the depression or not. But just do the following things, because it's so much easier to treat that than to keep believing that life is just hard and it's all hard, and you just need to suffer. First thing that helped me is to understand the default mode network. This is a part of our brain. I don't understand like entirely. Of course, I'm not a doctor or anything. This is the part of our brain that activates when a person is at a wakeful rest and not focused on the outside world. That's important. It drives daydreaming, self-reflection, mind wandering, and mental time travel. That thing is very on all the time when you are depressed. It's shifting your attention, your focus from the external world, right? From doing this stuff, being with people, being focused on your work, to the internal, to what's going on with your brain, to the perception of self. It does the time travel too. Remembers every little thing that you did wrong in past. So that's this part of our brain that is very activated during the depression that I believe should be turned off for that time. There's medicine for it, but here's how I treated it without any medicine. First, I realized that this was a problem. Actually, I knew about the default mode network for a few months already, but it was like a revelation at some point that, oh my God, everything that I've been thinking about for the past 5 months is just the fruit of labor of my fellow default mode network. Realizing it just helped me, because then I started to Google, how do I turn it off? As an entrepreneur, right? You problem solve, right? And I started to problem solve it. I realized that there was a thing that's quite helpful. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 framework exercise, which is notice 5 things in your environment, notice 4 things that you hear, notice 3 things that you sense with your skin, notice 2 things that you can smell, notice 1 thing that you can taste. It's kind of in that moment when you're like, I'm a loser, I hate myself, I want to die. In that moment, it's a very useful exercise, I find. Another thing that helped me a lot is another exercise, which is just the mantra that repeats, don't think about yourself. Whenever I had this internal talk, I was like, don't think about yourself, don't think about yourself, don't think about yourself, don't think about yourself. I could go on like this for minutes, and it helped. It really did. One more thing to turn off that internal focus and extend your focus to the outer world is to meet people. Please meet people. I started to go again to my acrobatics class here and there. I started to go for walks with friends. Rarely, yeah. I still didn't want to. I still felt like, I had to work on my business and stuff. But I still went, and it helped to turn off that default mode network a lot. I signed up for a business club too. And one thing that also helped a lot is to take a week off. I don't know if that works for everybody, but I took a week off from anything but the necessary fulfillment that I had in my agency. I removed all the pressure, and frankly, I'm kind of proud of myself that I somehow got to this point when I could allow myself to get the week off. I'm so grateful that somehow it entered my brain that there's a possibility to actually take a week off. So I did that too. And during that week, this one is the kind of magical thing that happened. Honestly, thank God, whatever helped me, because it was truly like a magical coincidence. So I was reading a book, Peak Performance, because of course I wanted to perform the best of the best, because I'm that ambitious and I want to reach millions, even though why do I need those? That's another story. But I remember reading Peak Performance. And I don't know how that happened, but towards the end of that week off that I had, I read that chapter that talked about values, that talked about that people can achieve immense things when they do it for others. This, frankly, changed my life. Here's how. In that chapter, there was an exercise to create your value statement. First, it was to list your values, which I did in past. It didn't work well. And the reason for that, it was not my values. I finally started to listen to myself and see what my values is. My values ended up being something like enjoyment and kindness. Whereas in past, I thought my values were achievement and authority. That's so not me. And I'm glad that I finally realized it. At the end of that exercise, we were creating our value statement. That value statement had to be about somebody else. Some did value statement I want to inspire people to push the limits of their physicality, Something that allows you to do great work because it goes beyond yourself and what your huge ego needs. I created that value statement and it kind of hit me. Honestly, it was like in the span of 5 minutes, I could say that my life turned upside down. I'm like, oh my God, that's exactly why I want to live now. I want to do it not for myself, but for others. And it led to letting go of my ego, which I believe is like entirely new video. Comment down below if you want, but I think I will film it anyways. When you start living for others, everything is so easy. Compliment is easy. Flirting is easy because I'm not that afraid of rejection anymore. Small talk is easier. Seriously, letting go of your egos helps so much. I found this picture from that time that showed so well the depression and the arrogance because of that ego that I had at the time. Like, it literally showed in one picture. I'm super sad about who I am. I hate myself, but at the same time, I'm like, I need to maintain the standard and be better than others and beat that other guy on the internet. Yeah. So what I do moving forward, not to get back. Actually, even though I got so well since then, I still get a little bit of fear of what if it all comes back. And now, luckily, I already have the tools that I documented that will hopefully help me. I call it the Victoria's happiness triangle. You can teach Victoria's just happiness triangle. First, I will take care of my resources. If I ever feel like I don't want to do anything, it's not normal. Typically, people want to do at least something, like play video games. Like, I never liked that. Actually, that's because resources are the most important thing. You need to sleep well, eat well, make sure you do different activities so that you rest from one activity. And why I care so much about resourcefulness is because now as I'm resourceful, I can do not twice as much as I did when I was depressed. It's 100x more. Like, literally, I can take so much in terms of emotion, information. I stopped forgetting stuff. I want to do things. I have big goals. I have big ambitions and I want to reach them. Versus in past, it was like, I want it, but like I know I don't want to do it. So that's first. Be resourceful. Make sure you are okay. So when I make sure that resources are okay, I then have mental space and time to hold my values. I have energy to live according to my values. I have time and energy to remember about them, to remember about acting, towards in alignment with my values every day. Погоди, какая-то хуйня. My battery's dying. I need to be fast. And then the third corner is people. I need to get out there and serve my values to the people, to the community I have. Then this, living according to your values, it feeds into the resources. It gives you more energy to live. So it's like resources, values, people. This is the triangle that helps me. Try it. Maybe it will help you too. And if you find yourself in this dark spot that I was describing, I think the first step is just reach out to somebody. It's not, you don't even need to say you're depressed or something like that. It's just you need to spend more time out there rather than inside of you. So that's why people are important. And maybe instead of Alex Hormozy, watch Layla. Layla Hormozy is a lot more about empathy and compassion. Okay, so that's it. Thank you for staying for that long. Really appreciate it. Boost this video, send it to somebody who needs help, or just choose to finally use the tools that I listed and not hiding in your entrepreneurship that much if you feel like you need help. So next story I'm thinking about telling in this channel is how I dumped my husband and lost more than $10,000 trying to grow my business and ended up in negative profit. Want to see that? If you want to see that, please subscribe and let me know in the comments if you want to watch it. I feel like it would be a pretty interesting story. Goodbye! Okay, this is your topic.